All right, Pat, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's hit it.
All right. Welcome back to Georgia Peachcast, coming to you from Cherokee County, Georgia. This is Pat.
And this is Greg.
We all might get our news on world happenings from various sources, or maybe not at all. But we do feel that this that we're going to do for the very first time may help you understand what's going on in this country. It's a recording that we're just passing along to you. It's coming to you from Heather Cox Richardson's Letter from America that she recorded on the 6th of December.
December 6, 2025. On the sunny Sunday morning of December 7th, 1941, Messman Doris Miller had served breakfast aboard the USS West Virginia, stationed in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and was collecting laundry when the first of 9 Japanese torpedoes hit the ship. In the deadly confusion, Miller reported to an officer who told him to help move the ship's mortally wounded captain off the bridge. Unable to move him far, Miller pulled the captain to shelter. Then another officer ordered Miller to pass ammunition to him as he started up one of the 2 abandoned anti-aircraft guns in front of the conning tower. Miller had not been trained to use the weapons because, as a black man in the U.S. Navy, he was assigned to serve the white officers. But while the officer was distracted, Miller began to fire one of the guns. He fired it until he ran out of ammunition. Then he helped to move injured sailors to safety before he and the other survivors abandoned the West Virginia, which sank to the bottom of Pearl Harbor. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan. Japan declared war on America. And on December 11th, 1941, both Italy and Germany declared war on America. The powers of the Steel Pact, Fascist Italy and National Socialist Germany, ever closely linked, participate from today on the side of heroic Japan against the United States of America, Italian leader Benito Mussolini said. We shall win. Of course they would. Mussolini and Germany's leader Adolf Hitler believed the Americans had been corrupted by Jews and Black Americans and could never conquer their own organized military machine. The Steel Pact, as Mussolini called it, was the vanguard of his new political ideology. That ideology was called fascism, and he and Hitler thought it would destroy democracy once and for all. Mussolini had been a socialist as a young man and had grown terribly frustrated at how hard it was to organize people. No matter how hard socialists tried, they seemed unable to convince ordinary people that they must rise up and take over the country's means of production. The efficiency of World War I inspired Mussolini. He gave up on socialism and developed a new political theory that rejected the equality that defined democracy. He came to believe that a few leaders must take a nation toward progress by directing the actions of the rest. These men must organize the people as they had been organized during wartime, ruthlessly suppressing all opposition and directing the economy so that businessmen and politicians worked together. And, logically, that select group of leaders would elevate a single man who would become an all-powerful dictator. To weld their followers into an efficient machine, they demonized opponents into an other that their followers could hate. Italy adopted fascism, and Mussolini inspired others, notably Germany's Hitler. Those leaders came to believe that their system was the ideology of the future, and they set out to destroy the messy, inefficient democracy that stood in their way. America fought World War II to defend democracy from fascism. And while fascism preserved hierarchies in society, democracy called on all men as equals. Of the more than 16 million Americans who served in the war, more than 1.2 million were Black American men and women. 500,000 were Latinos, and more than 550,000 Jews were part of the military. Among the many ethnic groups who fought, indigenous Americans served at a higher percentage than any other ethnic group. More than a third of able-bodied indigenous men between the ages of 18 and 50 joined the service. And among those 25,000 soldiers were the men who developed the famous code talk, based in tribal languages, that code breakers never cracked. The American president at the time, Democrat Franklin Delano Roosevelt, hammered home that the war was about the survival of democracy. Fascists insisted that they were moving their country forward fast and efficiently, claiming the trains ran on time, for example, although in reality they didn't. But FDR constantly noted that the people in Italy and Germany were begging for food and shelter from the soldiers of democratic countries. Ultimately, the struggle between fascism and democracy was the question of equality. Were all men really created equal, as the Declaration of Independence said, or were some born to lead the rest, whom they held subservient to their will? Democracy, FDR reminded Americans again and again, was the best possible government. Thanks to armies made up of men and women from all races and ethnicities, the Allies won the war against fascism, and it seemed that democracy would dominate the world forever. But as the impulse of World War II pushed Americans toward a more just and inclusive society after it, those determined not to share power warned their supporters that including people of color and women as equals in society would threaten their own liberty. Those reactionary leaders rode that fear into control of our government, and gradually they chipped away the laws that protected equality. Now, once again, democracy is under attack by those who believe some people are better than others. President Donald J. Trump and his cronies have abandoned the principles of democracy and openly embraced the hierarchical society the U.S. fought against in World War II. They have fired women, Black Americans, people of color, and LGBTQ+ Americans from positions in the government and the military, and erased them from official histories. They have seized, incarcerated, and deported immigrants, or rendered them to third countries to be tortured, and have sent federal agents and federal troops into Democratic-led cities to terrorize the people living there. They have traded the rule of law for the rule of Trump, weaponizing the Department of Justice against those they perceive as enemies, pardoning loyalists convicted of crimes, and now executing those they declare are members of drug cartels without evidence, charges, or trials. They have openly rejected the world based on shared values of equality and democracy for which Americans fought in World War II. In its place, they are building a world dominated by a small group of elites close to Trump, who are raking in vast amounts of money from their machinations. Will we permit the destruction of American democracy on our watch? When America came under attack before, people like Doris Miller refused to let that happen. For all that American democracy still discriminated against him, it gave him room to stand up for the concept of human equality, and he laid down his life for it. Promoted to cook after the Navy sent him on a publicity tour, Miller was assigned to a new ship, the USS Liscum Bay, which was struck by a Japanese torpedo on November 24, 1943. It sank within minutes, taking 2/3 of the crew, including Miller, with it. We hear a lot these days about how American democracy is doomed and the radical right will win. Maybe. But the beauty of our system is that it gives us people like Doris Miller. Even better, it makes us people like Doris Miller.
All right. I think Heather Cox Richardson really hits it out of the park on that, especially that last part. It's all how we choose as a society to let our morality guide us and to stand up when it's time to stand up. What do you think, Pat?
Totally agree, and hope that everybody starts to realize the necessity to get involved, do something, say something, write something,
Share
call
something.
Share something.
Heather Cox Richardson's pieces are not just the letters from an American. She has a Substack. If you feel like joining it, just look her up on Google. You can also catch her pieces on YouTube. She's not flashy, but she tells the facts as they are. So share with your neighbors, share with your friends, share with your family. Have good conversations based on fact, and we'll catch you next time.
Sounds good.